So, welcome everybody to another of York Angels Spotlight, where we're getting to talk about a very interesting industry, mining, and one of the most new age companies in this space. It's called Green Graphite Technologies, and we have Tom from there talking to us a bit about what they do, the impact that they're having for the Canadian ecosystem, and why we should pay attention to them. So, Tom, I believe you've been doing this for quite some time. Why don't you just walk us a bit through what Green Graphite Technologies does? And then, tell us a bit more about why is it important for people to pay attention to it.
Here's our journey. We're a spinoff from a Kingston, Ontario-based company called Kingston Process Metallurgy. They developed over the 8 previous years before our founding in 2021 a graphite purification technology to be able to bring either natural flake graphite, so mined graphite, or even recycled sources up to lithium-ion battery-grade graphite. If you may be interested in knowing that, there's about 15 times more graphite in a lithium-ion battery than lithium, about 45% of the battery itself. And so we look to enable the adoption of an onshore supply of battery grade graphite via our purification technology. We've been in operation since 2021. We're still a startup. We're still moving along, about to initiate the first stage of our demo in Mississauga, Ontario, in Q1 of 2026. So we're really excited. Glad to talk to you more about this journey and where we fit into the whole supply chain.
Wonderful. So let's take a little bit, go down the basics, right? Now, you said 40% of the battery is graphite, but graphite in itself is just carbon, and carbon is one of the most common elements on the planet. So why should people worry about just recycling or repurposing it? I mean, isn't just so abundant at this point?
The key about graphite itself, yes, it's one of the numerous forms of graphite. Diamond, I'm sure many of your listeners will be aware of that form of carbon as well. Graphite takes a lot of energy to make, and luckily nature has created these forms of graphite which have already been formed. So all the energy's gone in to making those hexagonal structures, which then give those really cool properties that a lithium-ion battery requires. And so I think what's really important to understand is we need to leverage, what's nature has already done, to be able to take that and apply this, both from a low cost and a low environmental footprint purpose to be applied to lithium ion batteries. So that's sort of what we're leveraging here. It takes a lot of energy to make graphite from carbon, so that's why we want to be able to leverage that and leverage what we're doing on a purification side of things.
That's very interesting. So, Tom, over the last few years, we've seen a lot of these technologies come along, right? About recycling, repurposing minerals so that we can reduce our footprint in the mining space as well as in the material science space. But how different is your approach, one? And do you see this becoming the norm in the future rather than just going and digging things out of the ground, but we're just repurposing and recycling what we've already extracted?
I can answer that twofold. First of all, in the markets that we're in, uh, their automotive space, which is where our graphite, our primary market is targeting, very low margins. So we could be as green as possible with our processing technology, which we are with our continuous carbochlorination approach. Certainly one of the greenest approaches on the planet. But at the end of the day, it's still got to make sense from a business perspective, especially in this market with small margins. The automotive industry, certainly, there's always a tight control over the supply chain and in terms of pricing. Now, in terms of recycling or repurposing, I think that's one of the great advantages of what we do, because we can use what our purification approach to be able to upcycle spent graphite for secondary for different types of graphite products. And also, if your listeners may not be aware, that gigafactories often produce a large amount of scrap material. So the graphite that's used for the anode of a lithium ion battery can be upcycled back to battery grade. And that's something that our company can enable. with our technology. And so to broadly answer your question, environmentally, everyone's looking to be cleaner. Everyone's looking to be a responsible member of our community. ESG is super important, and we need to engage with our communities and respect our communities wherever we establish our operations. But at the end of the day, our customers are looking for affordable solutions. We're not only just waving that shiny object of being a green technology. No, we need to be cost effective, and that's where we fit into this whole ecosystem. Let's just say.
That's really exciting. So I got a chance to look at your, pitch deck and some of the business operations that you guys do. And I'm kind of curious. You guys operate something known as Graph Pure, Graph Renew, and Graph Restore technologies, right? That's how you kind of phrased it. What is the difference between these three? They seem almost for a layperson, they're identical variations, but I feel like there is much more depth to that.
Well, yes and no. They're all based on the core intellectual property that we have developed initially at KPM, and then company was spun out to actually commercialize our purification approach. But these are brandings around being able to process different feedstocks. So Graph Pure being natural flake graphite, Graph Renew, which is all about the manufacturing scrap, and Graph Recycle, which is all about taking end of life battery graphite and repurposing the end of life battery. Certainly, technology standpoint, you'll be operating at different conditions, different parameters, your process to be able to get your final products, but it's broadly speaking the same technology platform, which is our patented technology.
All right. So, how does that change the conventional graphite purification process? What would you think is your biggest advantage in this space? Is it the fact it reduces the cost, the emissions, the water used, or total wastage?
All of
Like,
the
what
above.
would the
You basically did the pitch for me there, but this is where we fit into it. The conventional approach for purifying graphite for lithium-ion batteries is an approach which employs numerous acids, including hydrofluoric acid. Hydrofluoric acid, it's commonly used, and frankly, most of the supply of these materials right now come from China. If you ask anyone who has visited an anode active material plant in China, they'll tell you that there isn't a whole lot of vegetation around those plants. So why? Certainly the ESG isn't necessarily as strong over there as it is over here. Hydrofluoric acid is also one of those acids that in very trace quantities is actually very toxic. Our technology, we profess to using chlorine gas. Now, I'm not saying chlorine gas is safe by any means. Absolutely, you need to apply prop safety in your plants, but chlorine has this distinct feature of I can smell it so I can get away. Whereas a hydrofluoric acid or HF, I always but with a fair amount of seriousness that it'll be dissolving you before you even know it. More importantly, from an operating OPEX and a CAPEX standpoint, operating HF in North America is expensive. We've been able to benchmark what we do versus other NI 43-101 studies that have been conducted by others and we have been able to determine that our operating costs associated with our process on the purification step alone is 50% lower than what we've seen from other NI 43-101 feasibility studies or for other players. If you're looking at the whole chain from feedstock to anode active material, it's about a 25% reduction in operating costs overall. Very, very impressive. The other element, which is really important to us, is if we were to benchmark ourselves versus anode active material or coated spherical purified graphite, they're synonymous in this case, to what is being delivered from China, we're at roughly an 82% reduction in carbon footprint. So it's funny when you're dealing with either battery cell manufacturers or automobile OEMs. I think their concerns 1, 2, and 3 are price, price, price. Their concerns are also security, like can I secure this supply? But in that checklist, it is sustainability, it is carbon footprint. And so we are checking a lot of those boxes. Certainly, a reduced water consumption and reduced waste generation is are key features of what we do. And so we're excited to be able to put ourselves into that supply chain. It's very important as a company. I mean, we're startup still, but we're certainly looking forward to be an active player in an onshore North American supply chain.
That kind of makes sense. Can you walk me through this roadmap, right? Because you've kind of been talking about how you guys started this journey as a spin-off and you guys are now heading towards a more commercialization phase of your growth, right? Walk us through your journey.
And I'm not a founder. Just full disclosure. I report to Jillian Hallcroft, who's our co-founder and CEO. Third time in my career I've worked for Jillian. She keeps bringing me back in, like she has that fishing line out there. But she, along with Kevin Watson, a former KPM employee, and whose name is on the purification patent, there was a decision made to spin out Green Graphite Technologies in 2021. Our journey to date, we've been able to leverage the Canadian, Quebec, and Ontario innovation ecosystems, particularly the ones that are focused on uh, critical minerals or batteries or EVs or energy transition, for example. So there's a lot of funding bodies that we've been able to leverage in terms of grants, so non-dilutive grants. We've raised to date, we've estimated in US dollars, $12 million. And out of those, 9 million is non-dilutive. Only 3 million is dilutive, and it's mostly from BDC, who's a shareholder of our company with a convertible note. So that we've been successful in various programs of moving the technology to we're at the let's say we're at the pilot stage right now, but we now are ready to move into our demonstration phase, which is two-phased approach. We know that that two-phased approach with at a 10x scale up each of those two phases will provide the confidence to the marketplace for investors to say, hey, these are the guys we want to back to be able to be commercial. Our time frame is 2029 to have a commercial plant to be able to provide coated spherical purified graphite to the battery cell manufacturers.
That's pretty impressive, given the fact that this is a market that, like you said, is price driven. You're able to actually reach all those critical additional checklist items like sustainability, like what do you call carbon footprint and whatnot, right? That's pretty impressive. And given the fact that you guys are actually, what, 3 years in the journey so far?
Yeah, I mean, 2021, so we're closing on down on 4 years right now. I joined the journey in January of this year, but it's really exciting. Very excited to see what has gone on to date. Very impressed with the work that's been delivered. And we're spread out too. I'm based in the Montreal area. There's several of us in Montreal and also a couple of us in Southern Ontario. We're very excited to have our first, call it bricks and mortar facility, which we're co-locating at a facility in Mississauga, Ontario, for the first phase of our demonstration, which will prove out a very important part of our graphite purification technology. A key piece of equipment will be delivered in February of next year, and then certainly we're looking to move that forward into a second phase in 2027, which would be used for offtake agreements with battery cell manufacturers.
That's amazing. Tell me something. What's next for you guys? Like, I hear a lot of great milestones that you guys are ticking off as an investor that I would love to see in an early stage startup, especially in a technology that is pretty niche as what you guys are operating. I mean, mining is not a broad common space, or is graphite, how do you call it, recycling? Would that be the industry you fall under?
Well, we're also taking mined graphite as well. We do have a supply agreement from a company called Weaver Energy. They are restarting a graphite mine in British Columbia. We will take their concentrate and then apply our purification approach, as well as some additional processing, micronization, spheronization, coating, to be able to make the anode active materials for battery cell manufacturers. So certainly we are looking at the circular economy space, very important for us. Actually, a lot of our non-dilutive funding has been around that space, and there's a lot of progress we've made there. But certainly what the battery cell manufacturers are looking for is a supply of graphite from mined sources first. Having said that, we believe certainly the production scrap from gigafactories, that graphite never seen a charge or discharge cycle, that could be another feedstock for the gigafactories, which would reduce the reliance on other sources. So certainly we enable that, and that's something that in our demonstration phases we will also be looking to both the investment industry as well as to the stakeholders, our customers, and downstream organizations, downstream stakeholders that require our materials.
So, Tom, if a mining company or graphite producer were to adopt your technology tomorrow, right? What would be the first set of changes that they would see in their production capacity?
The opportunity that's presented to us is the fact that there is almost no one doing this in North America right now. All of it is being supplied from China. You do have one facility, a company called Syra Resources, where they have a coated spherical purified graphite plant in Louisiana. As of right now, that's the only facility in North America that is looking to supply coated spherical purified graphite from natural graphite from mine, and their mine isn't in North America. Their mine is in Africa. It's in Mozambique. Um, so it's not so much about an upgrade on what people are already doing. It's about providing a new capability cost effectively without damaging the environment to be able to enable an onshore supply chain. So I mean that's really the opportunity that we're pursuing here. And certainly when we look to the what's going on in the US, the vast majority of the gigafactories making battery cells are in the US. You do have two projects here in Canada, but it's mostly the US. And if you look at the US situation, the vast majority of that graphite is coming from China, which is a national security risk. We can't necessarily, and I'm sure your investors will agree, investors who are listening to us would agree that you can't just hang your hat on a policy to ensure that you're going to be able to make an investment in a company. But nonetheless, the signals we're getting from the Trump administration, let's forget the 51st state stuff for a moment or anything of that nature. At the end of the day, the policies of the Trump administration are in fact showing that they are favoring an onshore supply chain from China. And so certainly as our company has focused on the technology, focused on the toughest part of turning graphite into battery grade graphite, which is the purification step. That's the toughest step of them all. Because we have this ability to enable that, I think that gives us a wonderful opportunity. Um, just to mention, I mean, we do intend on being an operator in 2029 of our own purification technology, and frankly, the whole production line. But it certainly we are still looking at how we're going to operate. Will we be doing that in partnership with a miner? Will we be doing that in a partnership with a sort of someone who's also in the midstream right now, already serving the battery cell manufacturers? Will it be an organization that's adjacent to that? We're certainly in the process of determining like what will be the sort of what will be the makeup of that commercial facility. But we're certainly excited to look at different angles and frankly leverage what the policy is south of us in the south of our border here in Canada in terms of favoring opportunities and investment to provide that supply chain to that secured supply chain to the US gigafactories and perhaps to other non-lithium ion battery grade applications. Defense is another area where they need graphite as well.
So, Tom, I get that a lot of people will be able to see and meet you at our event, which is the York Angels Invest in Mining's Future event, which is happening in October. But for those who get to miss the event, unfortunately, how can they follow you? How can they get in touch with you?
Well, easiest thing is to reach out to me either via email. So it's Tom at greengraphitetech.com. It's just all one word, no dots, no hyphens or anything. So Tom at greengraphitetech.com. Feel free, and I would recommend all of your listeners here and the investors who listen to us to follow us on LinkedIn. Green Graphite Technologies, we have our own LinkedIn page. We do have periodic updates and periodic news items of what's going on. So that's probably, if you want to learn about what's going on at Green Graphite Technologies, feel free to follow our LinkedIn page. Our website is greengraphitetech.com. Probably determine that from my email domain that I mentioned, but feel free to visit our website. But I think LinkedIn is a really good means of following what we're up to.
That's amazing, Tom. I'm going to have to confess this. I love the energy. It's just fabulous. Now, for a final shout out from you, what should be the one message our listeners should take away about green graphite at the end of this episode?
Good question. What we need in North America is an onshore supply of graphite. Why? Because if we want to drive EVs, we want to help save the planet, we need our graphite supplied from North America, and Graphite Technologies will enable that.
Absolutely. All right. So Tom, thank you once again for joining us on our series and being a fabulous guest. We really enjoyed having you and telling us so much about green graphite. I think there's very few people here who actually realize the need and importance of such an industry and technology here, right in Canada and in North America. I'm hoping you are able to get some great investors and partners out of this episode. As always, thank you everybody for tuning in and listening to our episode, and hope to see you all in the next episode. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.